In the last lecture, we made sure that we update the UI depending on our authentication state. And of course, the same logic we used there can be used anywhere in your application if you need to change something depending on the auth state. We'll also do that in one of the next lectures. But for now, I want to make sure that the logout link works. Now, logout leads to /logout, obviously. And I want to do something upon a logout. I want to clear my token, and we do have an action for that. If we check the store actions folder off, there we do have that logout action creator. So I want to dispatch that. And I then, of course, also want to redirect. For example, if we click logout, I always want to redirect back to the starting page so that if we were on orders, we're not staying there because we're not authenticated anymore. So that's the idea, redirect and dispatch this logout action. Now, there are different ways you can achieve this. One possibility would be to go to your navigation items here and make sure that you create a separate kind of navigation item, which isn't a link, but actually a button. And then you could register some action prop, which in the end is a link to a method you want to call to dispatch. That would be a way to handle this situation. I want to show you this way with linking to a page, which then just redirects you and logs you out. So what I'll do is I'll go to my containers folder, and in the auth folder, I'll add a new subfolder, logout. And there I'll add a logout.js file. This will be a class-based component, so I'll import React and component from React. And I'll create a class which I'll name logout, which extends the component, of course. Now there I'll have my render method, and there I will return some JSX. And of course, I'll export this logout class as the default. Now I want to do two things: dispatch that action and redirect. Let's start with dispatching the action. Here I will add a new const, map dispatch to props. This should hold a function where we get the dispatch function as an argument and where I return this well-known JavaScript object mapping props to dispatchable methods. So here I will add an onLogout prop, and this will hold a function which in the end calls dispatch and which now should be able to dispatch that action from my action creators file. So I'll import everything as actions from, and now I go up to the top, into the store folders, into the actions folders, to the index.js file, as in all my other containers too. So that here what I can do is I can call actions, and then there I need the logout action. So to be able to access it, I first of all need to export it in that index.js file in the actions folder. There, right now I only export auth. I will now also export logout from the auth file in there. With that exported here too, I can go back to the logout container and call actions logout here as a function. So this is the onLogout prop, which I can call as a function to dispatch this action. And I want to do this right at the start when we enter this page. So here what I can do is I can add component dateMount, and I can then call this props onLogout. And this will then be the first thing I do when rendering this component. Then, as I said, I also want to redirect. And now we have two different ways of doing that. One would be to forward the props of this component, which will be loaded via the router. So therefore we could forward this props history. And on that history object of the router, we would have the push method. Now what I want to do instead is I want to redirect declaratively. So I'll import redirect, the redirect component, from React router DOM. That's a very elegant way of redirecting. And then the only thing I return as part of this component is that redirect component here, which means whenever this container is loaded, it just redirects me. Of course, a very easy way of redirecting the user. I then want to redirect to just slash, let's say, and with that, I now got a logic to, instantly redirect me. So with that, the only thing that's left to do is make sure that the logout container gets loaded for /logout. I do this in my app.js file on the root level, where I have all my routes. I'll simply add one more route where I load /logout, like this. And there, I don't want to load the auth component. Instead here, I want to load the logout component, which can be found in the auth folder, but there in the logout subfolder, and there of course in the logout file. And now logout is what I assign to this route. With that, if I save this, let's go back to the application and see if this all works as it should. It doesn't, and this makes sense because if I have a look at my logout container, there's one thing I forgot. I do have map dispatch to props, but I don't call connect. So this prop is actually not available yet. That's of course a common gotcha, so let's quickly import connect from React Redux like this and wrap our logout function with it, or with the function it returns to be precise. So let's pass map dispatch to props. The first argument therefore should be null. And then we wrap the logout container with the result of the connect function call. Now this prop should be available. It is. We load this app correctly. Let's go to authenticate and quickly sign in with our user here. Switch to sign in and submit. We are authenticated. Now let's go to orders. That works. And now let's click on logout. And you see we are immediately redirected, and we do see auth logout here. So this action was dispatched. That's great. Now with that implemented, I want to work more on the UI. I want to make sure we don't even see the orders button if we're not authenticated. And I want to make sure that when we build a burger, that this is available when we're not authenticated, but that the order now button actually is a sign up to order or something like this button when we are not authenticated. So let's continue with that in the next lectures.